listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome. Welcome to Second Wind. It's always a thrill to know that you are out there listening to. It's always a thrill for me, and I hope it's a thrill for you that you've taken the time to settle down, or you're driving down the road, or whatever it is that has brought you to this moment. But I'm delighted that you're going to be here with me and Angela McKinney, who is my guest today. And she's got a fascinating story to tell us. So let me tell you a little bit about her. For the last 20 years, Angela has been helping people transform their lives, including her own. As a somatic guide and expert in additional recovery, Angela created a unique approach to healing from life's challenges, calls that book that she has just birthed, this is her method. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. She's called her method the Untangle method. That is the work that she does. She is the author of a new book that just came out, launched last week. And I'm so excited for her in this great accomplishment because it's called Untangle. And you'll be able to get it at most of your places, Amazon, and the list of as well as going to her website, which we'll share with you also. Now, Angela was born in Tennessee. I want to get you a little background of her growing up. At age 13, Angela was disowned by her father and sent to live in Los Angeles, from Tennessee to Los Angeles. That was a life change, where she and her mother survived feeling lost without a home. At 15, after winning Star Search, oh my gosh, it all became too much for her, engulfing her in a life of chaos and addiction. Her early adulthood recovery efforts have paved the path to help implement hundreds of complex recovery cases across the country. Angela, that's an awesome statement. I love it. Angela uses humor as a tool to capture the insanity of survival states and highlights the terror of success, not often spoken of. Well, Angela will share more of her story with us. It certainly does make you sit on the edge of your seat and want to know more about all that she did overcome in her very young life. So welcome, Angela. I'm delighted you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Joyce. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So you tell me you've had this book in your body for 25 years?
That is correct. Now I might slide into a Southern accent because I am a Tennessee girl in my body as well.
Yes.
I moved to LA when I was 13. It slides in and out when I talk to Southern people. So I'm just warning you. But I always say Southern Baptist, converted Jew at 27. My first Passover experience, I sort of had a vision of this book. Passover really represents the movement from enslavement to freedom for the Jewish people. And I was sort of entrenched in this ritual around the home and these rituals of practice around this beautiful, universal longing I think we all have to find our songs of liberation. And it just struck me, just burst like, oh, I have this vision of how we need to locate these crumbs that block us from our connection to our creativity, our spirituality, our freedom, and untangle them. And every room in the house really holds one of these knots. The money, the office story, the food story, the bed story, the vanity mirror story, like the bathrooms, like we have these interpersonal exchanges in every room of the house that can block us from actually realizing our truest potential. And wouldn't it be amazing if you had a handbook on how to do that, how to untangle these knots and access your songs of freedom? And so I've dedicated my life really to that vision. That was really sourced in an exchange I had with a rabbi 25 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I never thought about the way you broke that down, that in every room in your house, you're confronted. That's very interesting.
You know what's been so fascinating? I was an actress, as you said, and a dancer. I really embodied the theater and creativity as a young child. That was my saving grace from my particular trauma. And so I really incorporated creativity in this Untangle method because our biological systems are very dramatic. They're operating from death, potential threat to safety, and they swing between these polarizing states. And so the curious thing with my work, and the curious thing about untangling, say, just your makeup bag or something in your room that's kind of bothering you, is it gives you this key. It really unlocks a backdoor entrance into understanding something that you probably didn't know about yourself. And I think that getting into our unconscious realm is really hard because so many of us are concentrating on our cognitive, what we already know.
Right.
How do we get to what we don't know? Really, how do we root in there? And that's really, I think, the beauty and the simplicity of my 3-step model is the access point of getting into these tangled unconscious knots that are limiting us in a way that we're not even aware of. And then that awareness is very activating to the converting it into creativity and finding inspiration there. So
it's a 3-step program.
It's a 3-step process. I break it down. Yeah, I break it down.
Use a couple words that I've not heard used in this way. So I'll probably interchange them all the time, not meaning to, but states, you refer to states instead of moments or, so that's different. And then you just said one. Can't remember what it was. But anyway, and so you've changed some of the terminology for us. And why did you do that? Was it a conscious act on your part, or it's just what you consider?
I think we do have different states in us. And I think that, I do bring in a lot of the neurobiology of trauma resolution and understanding the different parts of our brain, the survival brain versus the learning brain. And these produce different emotional states in our expression. So my 3-step process really pulls apart 3 different parts of our experiences of our reality. And, resilience is built on the capacity to expand realities, I should say, because my tangled self has a very particular experience with reality. But it doesn't necessarily mean the woman today that's holding a different reality can't expand on that perspective. And so the 3 steps really measure up to a 3-part process of what I call the tangled self, which is the part of us that really goes back in time to our survival responses. The organizer self that wakes up. Some people call it the wise one, the part of us that can wake up and really orientate towards a more presently engaged relationship. But then I think where I add, where a lot of mindful practices stop, is right there. I think I bring in the 3rd part, which is connecting to our thriving system, the creative self. And this is the reclamation. This is the part of us that really can transform our experiences that we're having in our world. And so I break out those 3 parts, and it's not internal family systems therapy. It's a little similar to parts therapy, but it's got 3 very different points of view. and how those three parts really come together around, say, untangling some clutter in one of your rooms, untangling something in one of your rooms that's creating stress or overwhelm, is we want to hear into those states, those three parts, and we dramatize them in the book. We give them voice, we give them space to be heard differently, so that they can start creating a more embodied whole experience.
Yeah. I'm so curious to know how you do that in each chapter. When does my book get here?
It's on its way. You know, I've had such great feedback because it is a very comprehensive approach. I think because I spent so much time in complex trauma, recovery, addiction, in a lane of complexity and treatment, I think that I'm filling in a gap to the day-to-day living that happens for anyone who's had to sort of have an intervention and be taken out of the home, and then they have to come back. And so part of my training grounds has been life skills on the returning home piece. And how do you work with your home? How do you work with a chair where you used to drink and you're no longer drinking? How do you reclaim your relationship to that chair so that you're not triggered by it anymore? It's not bringing up the past. It's getting more embodied into this meaningful chair that holds the past, but it was also holding experiences with you and your child reading a book or doing something meaningful. So you're converting the past in a very creative way by using the particles of your home. So my field has been filling in. There's a tremendous gap in treatment for people that are coming out of addiction interventions, for example. There's great outpatient programs. There's all these support structures which they need, but often it's the real lifetime day triggers that are activating them in their home that they actually need help learning how to untangle.
Oh, yes. But you could do this. I mean, the person can get the book and heal.
Absolutely. Yes, no, I have outlined a detailed, comprehensive recovery map here, a real roadmap that is bite-sizable, and it's a practice. It's a self-facilitating mechanism of facilitating your own transformation. So yes, this is why this took a long time to actually write in detail.
I'm going to ask a question, and you may just think it's an off-the-wall question, but you being such a creative person, I can just tell. Fortunately, listeners out there, you can't see that I'm looking at her. I so wish you could see us, but I get to see her, and creativity is just jumping off of her. She is a very creative, gifted person. And so did that play an important part in your healing?
Yes. I think that, a lot of people will ask me, and I will always go back to, I had to reclaim my creativity, because with trauma and with unresolved trauma, you tend to leave things behind. And I left behind I won Star Search, but then the success of Star Search, and I was young, I had a 15-year-old body, so I was really young, and had a lot of unresolved trauma at the time, couldn't handle being seen. So my safe space, which was my salvation as a child, which is where I could go and find freedom on the stage, because I certainly didn't have it in my so-called real life. I was shut down, colorless, muted. I was, I was covered up and quiet, and all I tried to do was disappear. So the theater for me was the place I had access to creative impulse. I'd come off the stage and all that energy would go away. So when success happened to me, all of a sudden that space became a little contaminated, and I shut it down. I shut it down. I couldn't show up for the interviews. I became like a feral cat. I just could not handle anyone coming to me and wanting anything from me. And so that shutdown drove me into despair and anguish and addiction and depression. And it was tremendously a dark 15-year period for me. And once I crawled my way out of it, and once I started understanding trauma, which was in my mid 30s, so, I'm not going to put an age on myself right now, but then I started to reclaim the creative mechanism that I had abandoned because of the success. I had to reclaim my ballet feet. I had to reclaim my theater training. I had to reclaim it. And then I could start working with what I knew about recovery and addiction and habit formations. I could start fertilizing it in a way that I think is very different than most self-help books you read, for sure. And I think my success in this, with helping people embody this mechanism, it puts things together. I just did a retreat, and this woman shared, untangling is it's like grout. It brings it all together. All the pieces of everything get brought and arranged. She's like grout with glitter. She was very cute. She's like, it's not ugly. It's like got glitter to it. But that everything comes together in this mosaic reformation that just really makes sense from a body, mind, spirit perspective.
Yeah. So you've been working with clients. Let me just get a little better, more of a picture for you. You've been working with clients for how many years?
20 years.
20 years. And is that one-on-one? Is it in groups or
mostly one-on-one? I do retreats and I do run groups occasionally, but mostly it's one-on-one.
Yeah. You do. What'd you say about the groups? You do those?
I do groups occasionally. I do run a home program where we do that work of going through the home, and it's usually a 6-month program that I run.
Oh, okay. But do you have retreats?
I do sometimes, yes. I get invited to go and teach, and so I've done a couple.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I love them so much. I just did one in Costa Rica, and I did one in upstate New York, and they're just the best. I want to do more of those. They're so much fun. I'm so glad COVID is lifted and we can actually kind of get together again.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Well, share with us, what was the real thing that I call them defining moments, but what was that defining moment that you went through that really told you needed help? Can you share that with us?
Sure. So I think, there's a memory that comes to me when you ask the question. I remember being, I was 25 maybe at the time. I hated seeing myself so much in the mirror. And I punched the glass with my fist. And I just had a moment where I finally was just available for help. And I remember saying, please help me. And I remember that very clearly. It was a dark moment for me, but also an opening.
Yes.
And if I could describe the room I lived in at the time, I had painted Picasso's screaming women.
Oh no.
This room.
Really?
I am not kidding. I was trying not to drink at the time, and my idea of not drinking would be go on a 30-day fast.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I was trying all of these attempts to fix my life because I was so lost. I was so isolated inside and so full of despair. So that moment in the mirror where I broke the glass with my fist, I sort of prayed in a weird way. It was a whisper of a prayer. And there was someone staying with me at the time who was kind of a conduit to bridging me into some help.
Yeah.
I had been resistant to it And
Mhm.
then she was just kindly asking. I always say it's the best, you know, if you want to help someone who's in real denial, is don't care. Just say, hey,
Yeah.
you want to come? Okay, whatever. Like they want to fight, they want to justify, they want to argue. And the
Mhm.
more okay you are with them not coming, they're kind of taken back. So I was kind of taken back by her to the point where the next time she said, hey, do you want to come to this thing I'm going to? I was sort of like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I sort of slid into some recovery spaces and I started to thaw a little bit. It was a long process for me to thaw. And I mean thaw meaning getting just safe enough to even say my name, to
Oh,
even say my name on a group level
right.
was a lot.
Yeah. I can just imagine, and maybe I'm reading more into this than you meant, but when your hand crashes into that mirror and you see that you couldn't stop and you see what it caused, all of the blood. I hope you didn't break your hand,
No, I didn't.
but that would be a moment of this is serious.
Mhm.
And yeah, I
I
can.
just hated myself so much. I just hated who I saw in the mirror.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, whatever caused it, we're glad that it did. And I know you went through a lot of pain in the change, but um, you talk about that in some of your questions. What was to happen, that sometimes it's difficult for people to go through transformation
Mhm.
and to face that trauma
Mhm.
because it's so part of their life that they don't realize how they've adjusted their life almost for the trauma.
Mhm.
So they've wrapped their life around the trauma.
Mhm.
So what is the thing? Does everybody have to have that defining moment to really face?
There are defining moments. It's a great question because I work with a lot of people who are in deep denial. Rupturing denial is definitely a skill set, and
Yeah.
it is required mostly for people to wake up enough to own it, so it's not owning them. And
Mhm.
there's a responsibility in that ownership. And when that gets engaged, there's an empowering agency that can happen.
Mhm.
I think I get that so viscerally in the work that I do, facilitating interventions, getting people safe to move into a rehab, getting people available for growth and learning. It requires a bit of a rattle. It just we got to get out of that complacency circle. It requires us bringing the chaos in just enough to start to register it. So many of us, especially me, we
Mhm.
want to push the chaos away, button
Right.
it up, clean it up, put a bow on it, stick it over there, and just really disembody from it.
Mhm.
And it's a trap.
Mhm.
So my book and my work is kind of bringing it in safe, playful ways that are unexpected, so we can start getting these jolts of awareness that rupture some denial,
Mhm.
and register the cost of holding on to just the one tangled self sort of perspective, what
Mhm.
that is limiting in us, what is that costing in us, how is that under earning us, under being us, under realizing our life. We do need to feel it all so that, again, the chaos can be then converted to music. It's like learning to hear noise and make music from it. But if we can't feel or register the noise, we don't have much to work with. We're sort of empty.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I experienced alcoholism through
Mm.
my husband who went to treatment. And so I've studied the other side. I've been on the other side. I didn't study. I've been on the other side. So I kind of can see how can one through your book, would it be book plus if they were indeed in trauma and facing the issues that they must face to
Mhm.
get healthy again, to
Mhm.
trust again, would they be able to do that just by reading the book? Or is that a beginning step to show they need support? Because support's very important.
Absolutely. And I say that throughout the book. This isn't really a book for processing. It's interesting. It's processing different kinds of memories for sure, but it's not processing a lot of PTSD memories or acute trauma that hasn't been processed. And if people don't even know what their trauma story is, then they're just stuck in the overwhelmed soup. And that's when therapy, and that's where that one-on-one support is, to help get coherency.
Yeah.
People who have done work on
Call them on their
themselves.
game and call them on their game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For people who are on a self-realization path
Mhm.
and have some good working understanding of their materials,
Mhm.
or they're young and curious and they just want to develop themselves, this is a great mechanism to deepen and broaden that realization
Mhm.
of how stuck we can get and in our way without even knowing how that's possible or why it's happening.
Mhm.
You know, I always say our problems today are attempts to solve other more complex problems. And when we can start to meet and greet our problems in a curious way, to understand there's something underneath it that it's trying to help stabilize or protect,
Mhm.
we get a key to reshaping that. Wait a minute, that experience from maybe a long time ago that does have memories associated, but
Mm.
they're not traumatic per se memories.
Yeah. 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 Um, well, when you normally coach a person, um, what is, I know this is a crazy question, but what what is the time that you work with somebody? That's undetermined, right? I know
Correct.
that. I asked that question. I knew that. Oh, you have here, what tools do we need to transform trauma or stuckness?
Mhm.
And those are in the book.
Yeah, those are in the
Those are
book.
your
Because
tools.
I think a trauma, so, and I like to redefine trauma. You know, there's a lot written about trauma. Thank goodness. You know, I would say in the medical, in the psychiatric field, and then the neuroscience field, the understanding of trauma has been the greatest contribution in the last 10 years. We know so much that we did not know 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
how to treat trauma is really interesting, because what we know about, and so I want to define trauma. Trauma is the story of what happened to us, and it could be these outside circumstances, crisis states, car accidents, horrible things happening to us. We all have these traumas. We're human. We come into this world. We all have trauma.
Right.
Then there are traumas that get frozen in time and buried. To no one was around to see it or help us process it, and so they get stored off, and they're almost like frozen memories that we cut off from. And that's where EMDR therapy, certain somatic therapies are really helpful to those earlier childhood traumas that could have been more relational in your childhood. But really, for me, trauma is interruption, and we all just had interruption with COVID. It's having an impulse to move towards something and then having it cut. You can't mobilize out of it. And what happens is it gets re-traumatized by that inner response to that immobility, which can create a lot of feelings of overwhelm and powerlessness. So the restoration of sort of getting well or building capacity or resilience is really reclaiming that mobilization into a new experience that trauma sort of cuts off. So we just like reliving the past, reliving the same old experiences. That's stuckness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the unwinding of it is always, I always say, is getting safe to move with a new experience. We move with a new experience that's restoring trust and harmony to our life agency.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get the medicine of healing. That's where the medicine shows up.
So if I think that during COVID, we all had trauma,
We had
because
a collective trauma. Yeah.
yeah. And it has taken a toll on, I'm, I see a lot more anger in just driving down the road.
Yeah.
than I
Yeah,
used to.
thanks. I know.
I'm not in a city. I'm in a little country town in Texas. And there's still, there are lots of pickups, but they're driving much faster than there were before.
Mhm.
People are much more aggressive behind the wheel. Um, and I see that as the place that's been affected the most. But I do understand that, the resistance to the masks, the the discussion that goes on with the masks, the hatred that comes out of people's bodies and mind
Yes.
over something either you do or you don't want to wear it. That's fine with me. You're responsible for your life, and you wearing it or not wearing it does not affect me.
Right.
And so there are things like that I still feel there's hanging on.
Yeah. And that's what trauma does. It does hang on, and it creates these intense responses that are very dysregulated and inaccurate to partner. It's not available to partner and problem solve. It's a threat response, and it's fear, and it's polarization. It's you versus me. It's we versus them. It's always bifurcating the middle ground, which is the uniting force. And so the more traumatized you are, the more fragmented you are, the more reactive you are. And COVID is given us a big magnifying glass to sort of see trauma exemplify the different faces and forms of what trauma looks like. And even the political spectrum, the traumatization that's just sort of on stage to witness is really a call, I think, for a lot more healing personally, and a lot more, let's take responsibility and wake up and heal this, so the divide becomes less acute, and there's more safety and curiosity of how to meet in the middle. And that's just the journey, always for unity and healing and harmony, is to find structures that hold both in balance and in check, and yet create a collaborative space for unification. And my book kind of walks you through how to do that in your interpersonal responses, because we are the mirrors of the outside world. We are what we see outside. And how do we move from a bifurcated, polarized state or response to one of integration and growth that can hold both sides, that can hold both, and get stronger in the holding more, not weaker. We actually get stronger as we can hold more.
Mm-hmm. I went, we had a country market, in an art town. You would have loved it. If I'd just known you then, Angela, you could have come. You would have had a great time. But there was this very peaceful thing that happened with me. I wanted to go to that because of the memories I'd had for that festival for 50 years. And I was hungry for wholesome. And that was wholesome. There were people playing banjos and guitars and walking around in a field and eating cotton candy and corn dogs and all those other things that you do at a fair. But it was it was a beautiful day. And it was such a healing environment for, I bet everybody that attended was getting some sort of nourishment from this day and this event. So we need more of those.
That's right. That's right.
So do you encourage us to walk outside in the park?
Yes, exactly. We need to mirror the living system of nature and rhythm and music and harmony and color and imagination. We need more of that to restore our systems to unity and connection. Yeah, and the good stuff of life, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you have a program? Do you encourage that type of program, health program, with their healing?
Yes, I do.
Do you? That's a part in the book as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I do. Well, wherever, see, for you, it's that fair, it's being in the fields, it's being in music and good memories, and that's the beautiful thing that I think this book helps people do is it's not about closing out the when we try to close out the bad memories, we close out the good memories. And so if we can have a method where we're sort of tuning in to the, maybe some prickly ones, right? But doing it in this colorful, creative way, we also start to, hear and remember all these good ones that reconnect us to that natural rhythm of people that, it's more complex, but it's more beautiful too when it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how can you know when you've experienced enough of those days, like I was gifted, uh, that you're healed or that you're on your road to healing?
Hmm. It's a good question. I think healing is interesting. It's unique. It's different for everyone. Everyone heals differently.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people think, what is it to heal? And I think a lot of people, feel like they go into a little cocoon and they pull the shades down and they need to get quiet and grieve and they feel the loss of things. And that's definitely an element of healing. For others, it could be getting bigger in life and getting more assertive and having more fun. Weirdly could bring up tremendous healing for those people.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden they're feeling things they've never felt before, which allows them to heal. Trauma, I think this is an interesting way to see it too, is trauma is the story of what happened to us, but it's also the story of what's not been allowed to happen. So a lot of good new experiences,
Mhm.
the trauma stopped us or limited us from even trying or being available for the fair to, you know what I mean, or an experience. It cut it off. Like it automatically decided, nope, that's not for you. You don't get to have that. You have to be, no. You have to be, let's punish you some more. Let's just deprive you a little bit more. You don't get, so it's calling shots on us that we're sometimes not even aware of. That when we become aware of it, wait a minute, no, I get to go over here and have this experience in the field. You get fed medicine. There is a lot of medicine and there's a lot of healing that comes into those positive new experiences as well. So I think it's both. I think it sometimes looks like cocooning and sometimes it looks like expanding.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't think you're ever done healing. I think it's an idea that we get very fixated on it. Oh, when I'm healed, I'll show up for dating. Well, how can you show up for dating and heal yourself at the same time? Oh, when I'm healed, then I'll make money. No, how do you make money and get healed in the process?
Uh-huh.
There's this catch in a lot of people's system that stops them from learning how to live, because the learning how to live pieces is how you heal.
Right.
And they get trapped in a rigidity of, I got to heal first.
Mhm.
And there's, it's more mixed than that. It's more,
Where do you think we get that idea? Because I see that also used with grieving.
yes,
Got to fix ourselves first, and
that's
then we'll
right.
enjoy life. I've got to.
I got to be 20 pounds skinnier and then I can enjoy life, right?
Right.
It is a control, I would say it's a trauma response. It's a control mechanism that catches us it hijacks us, because again, it's an attempt to solve a problem.
Mm.
Okay, there it is right there. I'm going to solve this problem and then I'm going to be okay. This is the fantasy. I'm going to feel enough. I'll feel pretty enough or good enough or okay enough to then now move.
Yes.
It's moving differently.
Yeah.
But the moving differently is where all the chaos is. It's where all the fear is. It's all the insecurity. It's all these other things that we're not registering the safety or the resourcing that we have today that maybe we didn't have 20 years ago or when we were 7 or 12. But today maybe we do. So it's kind of getting more present to be like, wait a minute, can I move with this now? Can I go and show up on a date even though I'm not perfectly on my weight level and have a new experience with what it is like to connect with a new person?
Mm-hmm.
And have that be meaningful And there's your rhythm, right? There's your unwinding, is not waiting. I call it, the ambivalence spell. Not being able to decide, waiting, being frozen.
How did I know that that was my comfort spot? How did I know? How does a person know? Like, I knew that day was what I needed. But how does somebody know if they like to paint, or if they don't remember painting, or how do they know if they like to
I
read?
ask people to do that in the book, is to kind of remember all the things that you've done, that you loved, hobbies, different education, certifications, different classes, even middle school experiences, things that you really want to reclaim, things that you forgot about. So that, again, we're getting more alive with all the memories, not just the negative ones, but the ones that really fuel us and fertilize us and heal us, right? And I remember, I have a good story right there that's kind of a juxtaposition, but I think helpful. When I was going to write this book, yes, I had a vision of the book for a long time. I made it my life's work. But when I was really going to commit to the writing of it, I couldn't find the time or the energy. I couldn't find it. I have a lot of clients. I have 2 little kids. I have a husband, like just a full life. So I was busy. Had a lot of excuses.
Yes.
Oh boy, I was like, I have a lot of excuses. But a friend of mine, she's actually a neighbor, said, it sounds like you need to go to a boot camp. And I was, a boot camp? I was kind of offended.
For writing?
No, for exercise, like one of those gyms, like, with the coaches yelling at you.
Yes.
Like your military camp.
Yes.
And I was kind of annoyed that she suggested I go work out, because I dance, I run, I do yoga.
Yes.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, I was a gymnast, so I lived in the gym when I was, 5 hours a day. And I was just really like angry. I was just like, that's ridiculous, is what I wanted to say. Well, that was my Buddha slap, as I call it, which is my wake up. Like, whoa, why am I so, what is getting me so charged up over a boot camp class? I have to go figure this out. So I signed up and went the next day.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. No, you move right into those resistances, because those sometimes are your biggest teachers. You just don't know why. I didn't know why. I went into that gym, and immediately the chalk, when people put chalk on their hands to do weights, the clicking of the weights, the smell, the rubber, it made me so sick. I ran to the bathroom and I got sick.
Oh, really?
Literally, I was just sick. So I was shaking. I threw water on my face. I was like, oh, no wonder I had so much, like, no wonder I didn't want to come to the gym. But I was like, okay, I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with it. I went to the class, and this woman was yelling at everyone and synchronizing us. And here I am trying to move this body that feels so sick. And but about 20 minutes in, I got in sync with the class. And there's something about synchronizing with a class, synchronizing with music, synchronizing with rhythm that is very powerful to our nervous systems. And I got access to this voice which shouted at me. And it was a shout, but it was like, are you kidding me? You can't write a book? You went to 4 high schools. You got thrown out of your house at 13. You divorced your husband with 2 little kids. You paid all these bills. You've done, it just went into this, like, do you not remember how much you've done in your life that you can't write a book? And it rattled me. It got me so, like, it knocked me out almost, but it woke me up. And that's what was missing, was a committed, I can do something hard. And that one class got me up at 4 o'clock every morning. And I just wrote this. It took 3 years, but I wrote every morning from 4 to 7. And
wow.
It just fueled,
what a commitment.
it fueled my Commitment is what I was lacking commitment. Yes, I'm busy, but I was lacking commitment because part of me didn't remember I could do it until I remembered that I could do it because of all those memories, all those experiences that I had in my body that I'd sort of erased.
Right.
So that's how memories can get you stronger, remembering hard things that you've done. And then that's how memories can be, oh, all that ballet training I had, how do I use that today? How do I skillfully use technique to help people? And there's ballet in that. And so I can bring that into my work.
I know very little about the different dances, but to me, ballet is the most demanding of all of the dances.
Absolutely it is.
Isn't
it? Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've seen those movies with the girls at the bars doing all this very difficult stuff.
Yes.
So,
no, but that fine tuning, those skills that we've learned in school, or we dedicated X amount of years to, that really can help us transform our life. We want to remember those skills because they give us bedrock, they give us attunement, they give us creativity to think about, how does ballet work here? How can I use my karate here? How can I use my painting here? For sure.
Wow. Well, I am most anxious to get my book, to look at it and just get drenched in it, to find out about you've created this tool that's so wonderful for so many people. So let's tell them a little bit about how they can get in touch with you.
Sure.
Your email. Do you want to give out your email?
I'll give out my website.
That's cool.
It's untangleandthrive.com is my website. And my book is called Untangle, How to Create Big Possibilities Through Small Changes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yes. And they can buy the book at Amazon, where I bought it.
Correct.
And will it be in Barnes and Noble and just all those places?
Yes. Some small independent places for sure. Yes.
Yeah. And then of course it's at the website.
Yes, you can get it at my web. Yes.
And your website is very interesting. It has different ways that you work with people.
Yes.
And so I found your website very interesting.
Oh, good.
And well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. So, it's just really amazing how life takes us down our different paths and how we either recover or we continue to struggle.
Yeah, well said. We meet our challenges in life either make us stronger or they make us weaker. They really do. And so if I can help people build resourcing to get stronger with little challenges, even big ones. I mean, I have some people getting into treatment in this book, but I have a lot of people asking for a raise, a lot of people renegotiating their needs in a relationship. So when we can meet any challenge and get stronger and have more pleasure, bringing more of ourselves into that engagement and then receive it, receiving the good stuff is where I really focus a lot of the work on. It's great. That's
right.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to the website, you can also see that she offers you the first chapter.
Oh yeah, I do.
Kind of really see, you can break down and see how the chapters are divided and the different topics that you talk about. So anyway, see, I get there. I got so inspired. So, Angela, we have indeed come to the end of our interview today, but it's been such a joy to have you on Second Wind.
Same here. It's good to
I think there are lots of second winders out there.
Oh, good. I'm happy to be here.
Go ahead.
No, it's lovely to spend time with you and just bringing me back to the South. It's so nice. Getting a little taste of the southern sweet tea happening. It's great.
You are, Sal. So anyway, thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, I'm just going to talk briefly to my listeners that, I really, really encourage all of you every week, right? Every week you get the same ask. Please share this with a friend you know that's struggling with life. You are the most important person right now that can change a person's life. With a simple, have you listened to this podcast, or this woman has a wonderful book, let's go get it. Or better yet, buy the book for her and give it to her. Something to help your friend or yourself go through the transitions of life. So I do hope that you'll reach out to the dear friend that could use your guidance. And I really hope that you'll be with us next week as we continue to expose you to wonderful people such as Angela and how she's committed her life to her work. So thank you for being here today. It's always, always a pleasure to know you're out there listening. So have a great week. You can make it happen. Thank you. Bye.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.